After all these years of development, we finally got the Borderlands movie. Ugh. I seriously do not believe it can be this difficult to make a good video game adaptation movie. How is it that we're able to make good shows with The Last of Us and Fallout, but for whatever reason when it comes to a film, we get 7 crappy Resident Evil movies, a god-awful Five Nights at Freddy's thing, and for some reason, the only one that's able to figure this out is Sonic. Uncharted sucked. Mortal Kombat sucked twice, was okay the third time. Why is this so hard to figure out? Now, I've been following the production of this movie for a very long time. I remember when it was announced, I think it was about 4 years ago when they finally confirmed the cast and director, and there was a target date of hitting in 2022. Then there was radio silence for the longest time and nothing ever came of it. And then I think it got pushed back to 2023, and then eventually we finally got a trailer, and then now we have the film, and it's... What? First of all, making a Borderlands film directed by Eli Roth and you're not going to make that rated R? That's a pretty big cardinal sin, and I am not going to forgive that. I do not know why you wouldn't take an M-rated video game series, get the most violent director out there, shy of Zack Snyder, I guess, and you're not going to let him go whole hog on the thing? I mean, this doesn't make any sense. This is a game based on senseless violence and over-the-top gore. And you get the guy who is perfect for that, just had Thanksgiving last year, and you're gonna handcuff him. Why? Getting to the cast, there's a lot of pushback when it was originally announced, and honestly, I was pretty optimistic for the longest time. I was like, okay, Cate Blanchett as Lilith, I could see that working. Kevin Hart as Roland, oh boy, I don't know about that, but I'm gonna see how it goes. Jamie Lee Curtis as Tannis, I'm not sure about that, but I think they'll do a decent job with it. Ariana Greenblatt as Tiny Tina, that sounds good. Big Nasty as Krieg, okay, let's go. Jack Black as Claptrap, could you find a better casting decision? The trailer came out and I was like, all right, this is gonna be good. I am really excited for this. It's going for like a Guardians of the Galaxy kind of feel right now. And it's going to be super over the top and awesome. And I'm looking forward to this. And then we get to the film and I'm just like, I don't even know what to make of this. So looking at the cast, we have Cate Blanchett as Lilith. And yeah, she plays the part well, but she is older than she's supposed to be. And it's honestly not all that bad. She does look pretty good as Lilith in the role. But she does make a lot of jokes about how she's getting too old for this. And there's about 3 or 4 other references to her age, and it's just like, okay, you're kind of killing it then, because Lilith is not that old in the games at all. That goes double for Tannis. Tannis is supposed to be about 26 or 28. That's, I think I'm recalling that correctly off of one of the echo logs from the first game. She is Jamie Lee Curtis in this movie, and she's about, like, I don't know, 40 years older than she's supposed to be? Maybe during her days in H20, Halloween 20 years later, that would have worked, but this... I don't know about that, bro. That's kind of a stretch. Kevin Hart is Roland. Right when he comes into screen, what is the first thing they make a joke about? How short he is. You lost me. He's making all of his Kevin Hart isms.
It's Pete. It's Pete. Why do you think it's called piss wash? How did I get the name?
There's all these no moments.
No explosions.
And it's just kind of like, okay, this isn't even Roland. This is nothing like Roland. It's really bothering me. Ariana Greenblatt as Tiny Tina, while she's not one-to-one with the character, she's at least doing a decent job.
Time to make it rain with your body parts.
I do think that a lot of the, dialect and vernacular is definitely not the same. And at one point she says badonkadonk, which is a thing that Tiny Tina says in the games. She doesn't deliver the line well, and it just feels kind of forced. Big Nasty as Krieg, or Florian Men. I'm going to butcher that name, so I'm just going to call him Big Nasty because that's what he's known as, or was. He was great. He really fit the role well. I mean, granted, he's not doing a whole lot. He's just kind of delivering NPC dialogue lines, but, I mean, there was nothing wrong with him. Jack Black as Claptrap was pretty spot on. I mean, it sounds more like Jack Black than Claptrap. I kind of wish they would have just gotten the guy who voiced him in the video game to be in the movie, but if you're going to go for a big name, Jack Black's not a bad one. He was just Bowser last year, and he nailed that, and this one, I liked it. I thought it was pretty decent. He had the whole mannerisms down, and he clearly was going for it.
Would you look at that? A ladder! Unfortunately, my design doesn't facilitate this type of...
And I gotta say, if there's one thing that did stand out that I did like, it was the costume design of this film. The costumes are very accurate to the game. I will say that, is even though the actors in the costumes don't look 100% like their counterparts in the video game, they did a good job with the actual outfits that they were wearing. Lilith, I would say, looks the most like her counterpart. Roland looks like Kevin Hart in a costume to look like Roland. Tiny Tina does look pretty solid. Krieg is spot on for the most part. And Tannis, again, even though Jamie Lee Curtis doesn't totally look the part, they at least styled her hair the same way, gave her the right jacket and shirt and everything. Although they did give her glasses that look more akin to Daredevil than the actual goggles that Tannis is known for wearing, but whatever. Like the Crimson Lance, they look just like they do in the game, and I appreciated that. The Marauders, for the most part, look pretty cool as well. So yeah, there's merit to be had in the costume department, but unfortunately that doesn't extend to the narrative or the anything else. Now this whole plot is really weird and nothing like any of the games. Or okay, I should back up. I've only played the first 2 games. I really love them, but in terms of the pre-sequel, 3, Tiny Tina's Wonderland, the Telltale games, I'm blind. I don't know anything about that, so if you're looking for the Borderlands expert, that's not me. I am a guy who is into the games, finished the first 2, and that's all I know. I really think it's stupid that they're combining several different aspects of all the other games instead of just starting with the first game and adapting that story. I don't know what's so hard about that. For whatever reason, we gotta bring in all these other characters from all these other games and start the origin right here, and so we have this hodgepodge piece of crap running the show, and I don't understand why they had to do that. Because the first game was Brick, Roland, Lilith, and Mordecai as your Vault Hunters. In the second game, you have Axton, Maya, Salvador, and Zero. And none of the characters from the second game are in this movie, and the only ones you have from the first game in this movie are Roland and Lilith. Mordecai and Brick are MIA, not referenced, don't appear once. They're just nowhere to be found. So then all of a sudden your Vault Hunter team, if you even want to call it that, because for whatever reason the only one who's referred to as a Vault Hunter is Lilith, and she doesn't want to wear that badge. So now for some reason Tannis, who was always a side character giving you missions for her research and whatnot, is suddenly part of the team going to find the vault. I mean, she was a big part of how they were able to discover the vault in the first game. But it wasn't like this. She was a background character. She was working while you were on missions. And there's a lot of lore to her character through those echo logs that they just don't tap into. Instead, for some reason, she's given this surrogate mother to Lilith role. And it's just like, okay, I get you're aging up the character so you want to change something about her. But this is just weird. They're literally the same age, roughly, in the first couple games, or in the games in general. I don't know why they had to do this. This story also feels really small in a world that should feel really big. For whatever reason, we have they're name dropping all these locations. Firestone, Tundra Express, Caustic Caverns. But we're not really feeling a whole lot of it. It's so confined in these areas. A lot of it feels like it's on a soundstage. There's some pretty bad green screen at moments. And it's really just such a letdown. Like, when I'm playing those games, you are driving through the valleys. You are going across all these different locations. You got catch-a-ride stations. You got this, you got that. All these vending machines where you can buy guns and ammo and med kits and all this other stuff. And none of that is here. They don't talk about the weapons at all. They don't mention slag, fire, corrosive, shock, none of that. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, Lilith's got a gun. It's cool. Look at the gun. And then Roland's got an assault rifle. And then Tiny Tina's got bombs. Okay, great. Can we get into like the cool part about this game? I'm pretty sure Krieg is like the only psycho we actually get. I mean, you get plenty of blood shots, but they're all indiscriminate and they might as well have just been psychos. They're clearly going for a Guardians of the Galaxy type of feel for this movie. It's not really working. Most of the jokes, not that funny. Not a soundtrack to heighten it, and there's just not enough lore and world building or lived in environment to really sell this. The character dynamics are pretty shallow, not that strong at all. Most of the characters are two-dimensional and don't have anything to them. Like there's not really much to Roland at all, and that's kind of a shame. Lilith is the one with the most backstory to her, but it's really not all that inspiring or all that interesting or unique. It's just kind of this generic, oh, my mom, she's dead and I don't have her anymore, and everyone's telling me that my mom told me that I was special and I don't like anyone. And I've seen this a million times. Can we get on with it? I get, like, Lilith in the games is pretty sarcastic and pretty dry and, whatever. But she's not this kind of, like, just annoying, I guess. Get into the side characters. There is hardly any. You get Marcus, who's driving a bus for some reason, having tours. Okay, this dude's an arms dealer. What's he doing driving a bus? The guy playing him nailed it. That was like one of the best casting decisions that they made in the movie. Mad Moxie, again, actress older than the actual character's supposed to be, at least from my understanding. Also, when did she become Southern? I mean, okay, in the first two games, Moxie never had this Southern drawl. If they added that in Borderlands 3 and I just didn't know about it, then whatever, okay, I'm wrong. But like, that was, I don't know, that was just such a weird choice. It was clearly just the actress that they picked. She didn't change her accent. Scooter, Ellie, and Hammerlock are all credited in the movie, at least on Google. I could be dead wrong. I think I saw Ellie at one point. They mean nothing. If they are in there, I did not see Hammerlock. I did not see Scooter. If they're in there, they're just a little cameo and they mean nothing. That kind of bothers me. Again, I really wish that they would have just started with the 4 Vault Hunters from the first game and just adapted that as a heist movie. That sounds like a way better movie to me than getting all these other characters from the different games. Like, Krieg isn't even a playable character in Borderlands 2 unless you got the DLC or the Handsome Collection. Claptrap's like the only character who knows his place. He's always been a side character, kind of off to the side and neglected because nobody likes him, and that's the whole funny part about his character. But Tiny Tina is not supposed to be this front and center or this plot-centric. She was always kind of a side character in the second game. That was when she was first introduced. And then she got her own spin-off, and anything past that point I don't know anything about, so I'm not going to talk about that. But she is made out to be like this huge central plot point that I won't get into, but for whatever reason, a lot of the movie just revolves around her, and it's kind of weird. The story is just so flat and meaningless. There's a whole lot of nothing going on. It's just one sequence to the next without a whole lot of anything stringing it together. They're kind of going for like this Mad Max meets Star Wars type of feel, Guardians of the Galaxy-ish type thing. But it's not as fun, it's not as inspired, and it's not as creative, and it's really just kind of devoid of any style or flair. I literally had a moment in the theater where I was watching this and I'm like, this feels like a bad MCU movie or a 2023 DCEU flick where everything is just kind of petered out and they're just crapping out these movies just to get rid of them. That's kind of what this feels like. And honestly, it bums me out because that's probably what's going to happen with it. I don't know how much money this is going to make per se, but it's definitely not going to make back its budget. I think this is going to be one serious flop because I was the only person in my theater on opening night. That is a problem. When you have Borderlands, one of the greatest established video game franchises ever, having its film adaptation lose to the newest Blake Lively movie, that's kind of an issue. I think they really crapped the bed on the marketing department because I haven't seen a whole lot of advertising as of late. And I think also this is just a kind of a dumping ground for movies right now because Trap and Harold and the Purple Crayon and this are probably not going to do nearly as well because you have that juggernaut of Deadpool and Wolverine eating up all the tickets right now, and even Twisters is still having its success. So sadly, that probably means we'll never see another one of these movies, or at least not in this continuity. Now, is that a problem for me because I didn't really care for this movie? No, not really. I'm not all that bummed by it. But I am just disappointed because I've been looking forward to this movie for a really long time and was hoping to get something actually unique and passionate and stylistic. And instead, all we got is some corporate feeling film made by probably more producers than writers and directors. And that really bugs me. And now, if I'm totally wrong and this was 100% in Eli Roth's creative department, then well, buddy, I think you screwed up on this one. And it really sucks because I would like to see more characters like Mordecai and Brick and Axton, Zero, Salvador, Maya, Jack. Dr. Zed? Where was Dr. Zed? How come he didn't get in the film at all? He's like one of the first characters you meet in the first game. Again, why can't you just look at the game and follow a template of that and adapt a pretty solid movie based on that? Obviously, you're not going to have everything in the movie, but take the stronger story points and make that your story. Instead of having Commandant Steele as the main villain for the first one, we have, the heck was his name? Atlas? Was he even in the games? I honestly don't even remember. I mean, the head of the Atlas Corporation or whatever, is that in the game? I could be dead wrong and I'm just forgetting about this, but yeah, we have no Angel. That's another thing that bums me out. It's kind of one of those situations where it's like, I want this film to be so good, but then at the same time, I can't help but wonder, maybe this just won't work as a movie. Could it work as a TV show like Fallout and The Last of Us did? Maybe. But at the same time, maybe it's just best left as a video game. Sometimes media only deserves to exist in its own respected format, in its own respected medium. And it's very clear that some stories work best in their specific mediums, because the second you try to adapt them into another one, suddenly they fail, or they just don't work. So yeah, overall, this would probably be one of the biggest disappointments of the year. I've seen plenty of other crappier films, but quite frankly, this was one I was really looking forward to, and I was pretty let down by it. So for a final score, 4. Yeah. So that about does it for my review. Let me know down in the comments whether you saw Borderlands or you went and saw that Blake Lively movie that my mom is more interested in. Let me know down below whether you liked this, whether you hated it. I would love to see how our opinions differ. So click like if you like this video. You don't have to like the movie, maybe you just like my review. Click subscribe if you want more movie reviews like this, because believe me, there are plenty more movies that are coming out that I will be reviewing. Alien Romulus is next on the docket, guys, so stay tuned for that. Until then, God be with you, and take care.